people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. The broadcast information for the upcoming Evelyn Bermudez versus Kim Clavel title fight.
Evelyn Bermudez will defend the WBO and IBF World Light Flyweight titles against Canada's own Kim Clavel in a headliner, streaming live and worldwide on Fight TV October 7th.
Evelyn Bermudez, a two-time unified champion at this weight, who suffered her first professional loss at the hands of Costa Rica's own Costa Valle.
Costa moved up in weight for that fight. She moved up from minimum up to light flyweight, won the fight, won the two titles, then subsequently vacated them immediately afterwards.
She's currently reigning as a unified minimum weight champion. Evelyn Bermudez, after that fight, was afforded the opportunity to win the two alphabet titles back opposite the ring Tania Enriquez of Mexico.
Been unbeaten.
The younger sister of Kenya Enriquez, who was in action this past weekend. And Evelyn Bermudez won the fight and reclaimed the two alphabet titles.
She's going to defend them against Canada's own Kim Clavel.
Former WBC light flyweight champion who faltered in her initial unification attempt opposite the ring Mexico's own Jessica Neri Plata. Jessica won the fight.
You haven't seen her since then.
Kim Clavel had the option of running it back with Jessica Neri Plata. She had the option of pursuing an immediate rematch, but she decided to forego that route.
She instead had a rebound fight with Naomi Reyes. She had the title fight with Jessica Neri Plata in January and the rebound fight with Naomi Reyes in March.
Now she means to cap off the year by seeing herself crowned a two-time light flyweight champion, unified. How does the fight with Evelyn differ from the fight with Jessica Neri Plata? There are only two champions at this weight, both unified. There's Evelyn, who Kim Clavel is about to fight, and there's Jessica, who Kim already fought.
What makes them different?
And what makes them similar? Evelyn Bermudez, like Jessica Neri Plata, is an action fighter and a volume puncher.
They're both volume punchers.
Where they're different is, I'd say, Evelyn Bermudez's best punches are her straight punches from the outside coming in, whereas Jessica's best punches are her hooks, her uppercuts, mid-range to inside.
That Evelyn Bermudez, in terms of variety, is a more limited fighter than Jessica Neri Plata, and for me and my money, she's not as hard a puncher. She's not pillow-fisted, but she doesn't crack quite as hard as Jessica Neri Plata does.
That's saying that I think Jessica not only shows more variety in her combinations, more variety with her shots, but she's also a more heavy-handed fighter than Evelyn, which makes the Evelyn Bermudez fight for Kim a somewhat more winnable fight than a rematch with Jessica would have been.
Perhaps it was smart of Kim not to go straight into a rematch with Jessica straight away.
Smart to perhaps give herself a little bit more time to reflect, a little bit more time to work on things in what could be a Jessica Plata rematch.
I think so.
You have to remember that Evelyn Bermudez has already been beaten by a smaller fighter that was moving up in weight. A smaller fighter in Costa Valle, who isn't even big on power. She's got speed and combinations and activity, but not power.
And if Costa Valle can beat you with her speed, then so can Kim Clavel.
So I see it. The Evelyn Bermudez fight is a more winnable fight than the Jessica Plata rematch would have been. And I anticipate that if Kim is successful early next month,
then she'll look to have the rematch with Jessica next year.
I think given her speed, her mobility, her agility, her ability to cut angles and string together rapid-fire combinations, that might be enough to outmaneuver Evelyn Bermudez. She didn't have that luck with Jessica.
Jessica's more proficient mid-range to inside than Evelyn is.
And it's because of what I told you. Where Evelyn's best punches are her straight punches from the outside coming in, Jessica's best punches are her hooks, mid-range to inside, within close quarters. She's more proficient there, whereas Evelyn...
Her work gets messy at that proximity. It gets messy at that range, disorganized. She's got a decent one too, but beyond that, just kind of falls apart.
leaving the door open for her to be outmaneuvered within close quarters, outmaneuvered by a slickster, a fast fighter, a speedster, like a Kim Clavel.
I believe that Evelyn Bermudez will lose a points decision to Kim Clavel for the same reason she lost the points decision to Yokasta Valle.
It's because Evelyn can be flustered in the pocket. Evelyn's punches are wider and slower than what you get from Kim Clavel. Kim Clavel, even though she's not big on power, she does have rapid-fire combinations and sharp movement to stay off the line while she works.
Whereas Evelyn's approach is a lot more simple and a lot less nuanced.
Stated, she's slower than Kim Clavel, punches wider, and doesn't have better feet.
I like Kim on points for this one.
I think the slight differences between the Plata fight and the Bermudez fight will make all the difference for Kim Clavel in October.
Look for that on Fight TV.
We'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches. Men's middleweight and super middleweight news. Eubank on Golovkin. He seems to only be interested in big money fights. I'm that.
After his revenge win over Liam Smith, he called out three fighters, three specifically, Conor Benn, Kell Brook, and Gennady Golovkin.
It's been years and I've always wanted to fight him in reference to Gennady Golovkin. Why not? Eubank told IFL TV. Who else is going to give him a bigger money fight aside from Canelo, which no one is going to pay to watch him fight again? I'm the only name that people want to see him fight. I'm never going to not want that fight. Golovkin is a great name, a great fight to have here in Britain. He seems to only be interested in big money fights now. I'm that.
It's not clear how feasible a fight between Golovkin and Eubank is at this time. Golovkin is reportedly interested in a farewell fight at the end of the year in his native Kazakhstan.
Before calling his career quits. And Golovkin, he's already made so much money over the years. He's not in a place where he has to go sniffing out money fights, that he needs to go sniff out a Eubank fight in Britain when he can do fairly decent business in his own neck of the woods.
Not convinced the fight between Chris and Gennady actually happens.
I believe that their unfinished business is going to stay unfinished to that. Eubank also welcomes a fight with Canelo Alvarez, saying, I can't think of any bigger money fights.
I think that Chris's ego is getting the best of him. He's getting ahead of himself. I don't know that Chris has ever, and I mean ever, been on Canelo Alvarez's radar.
Canelo goes where the money is, Eubank told Sky Sports. I can't think of any bigger money fights than me versus Canelo. I know he wants to fight in the UK. It's a huge market. There aren't many other guys there that people would like to see fight more than me and Alvarez. He's one of them guys. He really does make the rules. He does what he wants. He moves up in weight. He comes down in weight. He holds the belts in different divisions. He does all these things that the other fighters could never do. So it's hard to kind of target him.
You can't target Canelo Alvarez.
Whenever he wants to come and fight, he'll fight. He'll look at the options. Okay, yeah, that's going to be a good money fight. I think I can beat him. And he just does what he wants. So I'm not really so much targeting him. If it comes, it comes. Great.
It's not coming.
The moment has passed for Canelo Alvarez to continually take on Brits, and he wasn't taking on Brits for no reason. Two of them had the alphabet titles at 168 pounds, Billy Joe Saunders and Callum Smith.
Necessary towards his undisputed run. John Ryder, he didn't fight John for no reason. John was his mandatory.
No, people act like he was a handpick. He was the mandatory challenger by way of the WBO after he upset the apple cart for then unbeaten Zach Parker.
It was his mandatory. That's why Canelo fought him.
Now that he's parted ways with Matchroom and he's inked a 3-fight deal with the PBC, I don't see a Chris Eubank Jr. fight or a fight in the United Kingdom on the itinerary for Canelo Alvarez. So Chris Eubank Jr., this conversation, it's much ado of nothing.
Could it do good business? Yeah, I think it could. If you did Canelo Alvarez versus Chris Eubank Jr. at the O2 Arena, you sell it out.
And Chris leaves on a stretcher. He leaves on a gurney because he needed 2 fights to get 1 win over Liam Smith, the same Liam Smith that Canelo Alvarez beat easy years ago, back when Liam was an unbeaten fighter and a reigning WBO champion.
He also beat Billy Joe Saunders, who gave Chris his first professional loss.
Which he never avenged after all these years. These aren't triangle theories, you understand.
They're not.
It's not a triangle theory to say that Canelo operates at a much higher level than Chris.
It's not.
It's not a styles make fights or a triangle theories don't work kind of argument, kind of conversation. It's that Canelo Alvarez operates at a much higher level than Chris Eubank Jr., and the example of that is how he handled Billy Joe Saunders, who beat Chris, and how he handled Liam Smith, who beat Chris.
It's how he unified an entire division in approximately 11 months. Just 11 months against 3 unbeaten fighters. 3 unbeaten champions. Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant.
Beat those guys and made it look easy. There's a reason that immediately after his revenge win over Liam Smith, he called out the likes of a quasi-retired Kell Brook.
The naturally smaller, still somewhat unproven, Conor Benn.
Chris is getting ahead of himself, thinking that he might be on Canelo Alvarez's radar. For sure, they call him the Brit Slayer, Eubank said. People know I'm not going to go down without a fight. I'm not going to go in there and freeze up. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to take it to him. That's what people want to see.
And that's the fight that he needs to be in.
Whether he'll accept a fight like that is to be seen. But yeah, tell the fans, get the fans to speak up, get the polls out there, demanding that he fights guys that know how to bring it to him. Like me.
Already fought 2 guys that beat you.
At least one of the guys that you're after, Gennady Golovkin, a very much past it, quasi-retired Gennady Golovkin that's looking to have a swan song.
Chris Eubank Jr.'s surname is a part of the reason that he's in this special lane.
His namesake allows him to fight in fights that get people's attention without him having to pursue an alphabet title, a more conventional route, a conventional path as a boxer. And it's worked out for him because he does make a lot of money.
But he's not on Canelo's radar.
He's effectively pumped the brakes on a Conor Benn fight, which I don't know why, because that's still a major fight, a big money fight in the United Kingdom. And I think I saw something about Denzel Bentley very recently calling him out. If you did Eubank versus Bentley at the O2 Arena, no alphabet title needed. That fight sells.
It does.
But if you're pumping the brakes on an even bigger fight than that fight, a Conor Benn fight, I hardly think Chris is receptive to a Denzel Bentley fight. And let's be honest, Denzel is a bona fide middleweight. Conor isn't.
It's a riskier fight.
Guys that Chris is talking about are out of arm's reach. An almost retired Gennady Golovkin, Canelo Alvarez, these are not realistic options for Chris. Conor is.
Just needs a tune-up fight.
Seems to me that Chris is wasting his breath thinking about these other guys. And finally, in men's heavyweight news, Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk talks are reportedly heating up again as they continue behind the scenes. It's claimed there is lots of optimism that the undisputed heavyweight world title fight will finally happen next year in Saudi.
Frank Warren seemed pretty confident.
I'm quite confident we're going to see a unification fight. I'm quite confident of that.
Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk to close Riyadh season?
I don't know, but I'm quite confident that that fight will happen.
A ray of light from Old Fish Eyes Frank Warren when it seemed like all hope was lost to see a heavyweight champion, an undisputed heavyweight champion crowned in this era. Well, while Frank is confident, let's not forget what Tyson Fury had to say about it.
So where does the undisputed fight sit then? Is it not priority anymore, given what it took to kind of...
Has it ever been my priority? Did I ever say I wanted undisputed? It's always been some other little bitch's dream, hasn't it? Undisputed, road to undisputed. Listen, I got Francis Ngannou to deal with, and should the other little sausage want to fight for the undisputed, then, you know, if he takes a small percentage, then we might make it happen. But if he wants a large bag, then I'm going to say, no thank you.
Tyson Fury very recently blew off the idea that he should fight Alexander Usyk or Anthony Joshua, or really any of his contemporaries, any of the other pugilists. He is entertaining the idea of fighting more MMA fighters and more circus fights, which we all know offer him up a lot of cash for not a lot of risks.
These are not boxers.
And that's the appeal for Tyson Fury. If the Saudis are willing to give him a boatload of cash to play dancing bear with an MMA fighter...
Why would he gamble his unbeaten record? He just said he doesn't care about undisputed.
I mean, in so many words, what he told Michelle was that it was never his priority to fight for undisputed. It was always someone else's priority, someone else's dream, not his.
But Frank says that he's confident that next year that fight will happen.
So why is it that what Tyson Fury has to say about it doesn't line up with what Frank Warren has to say about it? Frank Warren his promoter.
It's not the first time that we heard about this fight with the promise that the Saudis would pay for it.
And we all thought this is going to happen, and then it didn't happen. Can you enlighten us in any way regards that one?
The talks from Fury Usyk were happening ever since last year. I took over and Prince Khalid assigned me as the head of boxing just a couple of months ago. So the talks had already started. There was just a lot of moving parts. I think that there was a lot of, I don't want to say misunderstandings, because I think everybody was on the same page, but it was a lot of demands, a lot of things that, just couldn't happen. I think the offer was more than generous. I think that the money that was on the table was a premium price. And, you've heard the numbers that are out there. But for some reason or another, the fight didn't get made.
Was Amir Abdallah, head of boxing in that region of the world, not but 5 months ago. 5 months later, something has changed.
It's not a secret that something about the power dynamic in Saudi has changed, that perhaps whoever was in charge of doing that fight before, they're not the people that are in charge now, and the Fury versus Ngannou organizer urges fans to ignore rumors about future big fights in Saudi Arabia. Turki Al-Sheikh, the chairman of the General Entertainment Authority, a governmental body tasked with expanding cultural offerings in Saudi, recently issued a terse, if opaque, notice about ongoing developments concerning major prize fights. Saudi Arabia's GEA is responsible for staging the upcoming 10-round heavyweight bonanza featuring WBC titleist Tyson Fury and former UFC champion Francis Ngannou. Fury is promoted by Bob Arum of Top Rank in the US and Frank Warren of Queensbury in the UK. It is not clear which fights Al-Sheikh was referring to, but most likely he had in mind the much-discussed bout between former champions Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, as well as an undisputed heavyweight championship between unified champion Alexander Usyk and Fury. Earlier this year, it was revealed that another Saudi Arabian outfit, Skills Challenge Promotions, was working to produce a card that would feature Joshua versus Wilder and Usyk versus Fury. There is an important thing I want to say about this fight and the future. Al-Sheikh told IFL TV, "There is a lot of rumors in the market. I hope the fans of boxing don't listen and care about any rumor until they have the official thing from our side. There are a lot of people talking about fighting in Saudi Arabia or meeting me. I never met anyone except Frank until now, and Bob and our team from Top Rank and the Tyson Fury versus Ngannou team. We are focusing on this match and will present another surprise. You'll know about it in the right time."
Is it going to be another circus fight, or is it going to be Fury versus Usyk?
This is what we know. Eddie Hearn is now saying that Joshua versus Wilder may not happen in Saudi, and it might get pushed back to either March or April of next year.
And Joshua versus Wilder was intended to be happening as part of the same card as Fury versus Usyk.
At least initially. Now what we're hearing from Frank Warren, who met with Turki Al-Sheikh,
Right.
is that the fight between Usyk and Fury will happen.
Next year.
And he is confident, seemingly without Joshua versus Wilder being part of the show.
Seemingly.
It's possible that talks for the fight have resumed, talks for Fury versus Usyk, and it's just as possible that Fury's still dragging his feet.
Two things can be true at the same time.
It's in the air at the moment.